Is the market coming down? April, overall, the market came down. But did it really? Stay tuned and find out in our detached and semi-detached housing report. Hey everybody, Rohit here from Royal Maple Real Estate. Today bringing you the housing market stats for April 2021, but this time for only the detached and semi-detached home segment. If you remember from our last video of the overall housing market, we saw an increase in the Toronto homes for about $10,000, whereas we saw a decrease in Mississauga and Oakville markets. But is that the case for detached and semi-detached homes? Let's find out.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Let's start off with the average sale price for all three regions. In Toronto, in March 2021, a detached home was trading for about $1.75 million. And now in April, that same house was trading for about $1.7 million, a decrease of $50,000. In Mississauga, we had a similar decrease. A detached home in Mississauga was trading for about $1.58 million in March 2021. That decreased to $1.52 million in April 2021. In Oakville, however, the market was relatively stable. It didn't decrease. In fact, it had a very modest increase of about $2,000. In March 2021, an Oakville detached home, was trading for about $1.88 million. And now in April 2021, that same house was trading for about $1.9 million. So a slight increase. Well, what happened in months of inventory? They must have remained quite stable, at least for Oakville, where the price slightly increased. Not the case. In all three regions, we experienced an increase in months of inventory. In Toronto, we went from 0.8 months of inventory to 1.1 months of inventory. In Mississauga, we went from 0.7 to 0.8 months of inventory. And in Oakville, we had an increase of 0.3 months. We went from 0.5 months of inventory to 0.8 months of inventory. So exactly what happened in Oakville? We saw an increase in months of inventory, and we saw an increase in the price. Let's take a look at the year-over-year average price for detached homes in each region. I'd just like to say, I don't really like this metric all that much because it turns into a scare tactic for the current buyers out there, and it leads to more FOMO in buyers. The reason being, year over year, like suppose we're going to be comparing this April to last April. Last April was the height of the pandemic, and there were very few sales and listings in place, right? So the average price will be very low last year compared to this year. And people will see the year-over-year price increase of 37, 28, 30%, and they will immediately have FOMO that, we gotta go out there and buy something. I always think it's a better policy to look at the seasonally adjusted or month-over-month price rather than year-over-year price. So just a statement disclosure there. Year-over-year price, however, is still good for long-term homeowners who have been living in the house for 10 to 15 years. So year-over-year price is extremely valuable for sellers. Not so much for buyers, but for sellers. Because when you're buying, usually you're looking at past 3 to 4 months of inventory that's sold in the neighboring area. right? So for buyers, year-over-year price change is not very beneficial. However, for sellers, year-over-year price change is beneficial, so that's why I'm still doing it. So let's take a look at the year-over-year price change of detached homes in Toronto first. In April 2020, an average detached home was trading for about 1.24 million in Toronto. Now that home is now trading for 1.7 million in April 2021. In Mississauga, we had a similar increase where detached homes increased from 1.17 million to 1.52 million in April 2021. And in Oakville, we went from 1.4 million to 1.9 million in April 2021. All of the areas had a double-digit increase.
Great Scott!
All right, now let's take a look at the semi-detached home market segment for all three regions. In Toronto, a semi-detached home was trading for about 1.29 million in March 2021. That same home was trading higher in April 2021. A semi-detached home in Toronto in April was trading for about 1.31 million, an increase of about $2,000. In Mississauga, however, a complete reversal. We saw a decrease in price. In Mississauga, the average semi-detached home was down from 1.01 million to 0.97 million. In Oakville, complete opposite of Mississauga. We saw an increase from 1.12 million in Oakville to 1.16 million in April 2021. So now, if you were looking for a semi-detached home, and if you had all three regions as your go-to regions, you better make sure that you're working with a realtor that knows the market in all three regions, right? Because all three regions have different price points and different market trends like we just saw. So if you were looking for a semi-detached home, say in Oakville and Mississauga, and you work with a realtor that didn't know the difference, they will be guiding you the same way in both of the regions. Now let's take a look at the months of inventory for semi-detached homes in all three regions. In Toronto, we went from 0.6 to 0.7 months in April. In Mississauga, we went from 0.5 to 0.7 months from March to April 2021. And in Oakville, we saw a decrease in months of inventory. We went from 0.5 to 0.4 months of inventory. And now for the semi-detached homeowners, let's take a look at the year-over-year average sales price for the semi-detached homes in all three areas. In Toronto, we went from 1.09 to 1.31 million. In Mississauga, we went from 0.8 to 0.97 million. And in Oakville, we went from 0.97 to 1.16 million. Hopefully this video was beneficial to you, provided you with some insights on the real estate detached home market for Toronto, Mississauga, and Oakville regions. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button and that like button. It really helps me out, keeps me motivated to do these videos and provide the information to you. I'll see you in the next week video where I take a look at the townhome and condo market for April 2021. Till then, stay safe, take care. This is Rohit from Royal Maple Real Estate.